Hey, what's up, Internet? I'm Ryan Sharp.
And I'm Jacob Rosenfarb.
We're joined here by our producer, Josh Zacklis. How's it going, Josh?
It's pretty good, guys. What about you?
We're doing good.
Yeah, no complaints.
This is a football podcast by the name of Two Kids in a Trenchcoat. You might be wondering why we picked such an obscure name for our podcast. Jacob, would you like to explain that?
Well, one day we were just, kind of talking, just sitting around, hanging out, trying to brainstorm our ideas for our new startup site, sidelineintel.com. Give it a look if you haven't already. But we're just kind of thinking what would be a great name for a podcast, and we came to the idea of Two Kids in a Trenchcoat. So we're kind of thinking is if we're big Family Guy fans here at Two Kids in a Trenchcoat, and we were, in my mind personally, I was thinking of the scene where it's two small children, one standing on another one's shoulders, and they're just impersonating adults, and that's basically what we're doing here. We're just two kids. Ryan's here on my shoulders. We're just trying to impersonate adults.
Trying to ride roller coasters.
Yeah, we're just trying to ride roller coasters. Order at expensive restaurants. We're just
Exactly.
We're just trying to be adults. That's just our whole mission here.
One of the big arguments we had that we eventually settled was: are we two kids in the same trench coat, or are we four kids in two trench coats?
In two separate sets of trench coats.
Since there's only three of us, we went with two kids in one trench coat, and then Josh.
And then Josh is our adult producer.
Supervisor, I guess.
Exactly. And with that being said, me and Ryan both wrote mock drafts for Sideline Intel, so let's just dive right into those. So, right, Ryan, I'll let you go first.
Okay. Well, in my mock draft, along with, I think, a lot of other people, I had the Cleveland Browns selecting Sam Darnold, quarterback from University of Southern California.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of football America is on the same page here. I think Darnold's looking like the number one pick at this point.
Now, Ryan, I have some questions because you said in the fall, Sam Darnold was, and I quote, not good at football. So what's changed your mind?
I watched him throughout the season. There's still some things I hesitate a little bit about him. I don't know if he's a great decision maker yet. He seems to force a lot of throws, and that can obviously lead to turnovers. So I don't know if that's a great quality about Sam Darnold, but he's a hardworking kid. He's like, no, we're going to do my pro day outside in the rain. And I think the Browns really love him too. Jimmy Haslam, has all the money in the world, but he chose to sit out in a rainy soccer stadium and watch Sam Darnold's pro day with his parents. I feel like you don't do that. You're not that committed to, sitting outside in crappy weather if you're not really in love with who you're watching.
Yeah.
And I think that shows a certain level of commitment that the Browns have to Darnold.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think this isn't by any means the final means of their reclamation project, but this is a huge step, getting the quarterback of the future. I think that's a big move for the franchise. I think Darnold is that guy. But yeah, I'd be lying if I said I didn't have any concerns. I think he's far from a finished product. I think his throwing motion is way too loopy. He has this kind of baseball loop towards the end where he kind of cocks it back. So that's going to have to get worked out in the NFL. Like you said, decision making is a huge issue, but he can make all the throws. He has a strong arm. And, he has the poise and kind of the leadership it looks like to lead a team. He's relatively athletically gifted. There's certainly some concerns, but he is warranted enough to take. He's talented enough to warrant the first overall pick, for sure.
I agree with that. And I think Tyrod Taylor is going to be an asset to Sam Darnold in the future, too. Obviously, the Browns picked him up. So I could see Taylor starting, in all honesty, and then, them working Darnold in. I think Tyrod's good, and I think the Bills really did him dirty at the ends there.
Yeah, the Bills really did him dirty. I mean, he freaking led them to the playoffs, and they're like, nah, we're gonna go with A.J. McCarron. That's our guy of the future here. But
Speaking of the Bills,
so
with my second overall pick, I had them trading all the way up from 12 with the Giants and taking Wyoming quarterback Josh Allen.
So Ryan, what do you like about Wyoming quarterback Josh Allen? Why do you think the Bills are gonna take him there?
I just think the Bills really like Josh Allen. I got to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of Josh Allen. I don't know if he's going to turn into the NFL quarterback a lot of people say he will be. I mean, he has a strong arm, but he was the third best quarterback in the Mountain West in 2017, and that definitely raises some concerns for me. So I think it's less about how much I love Josh Allen at number 2 and more about how the Bills love Josh Allen at number 2. I had someone ask me the other day, what do you think of the Giants' recent report saying Saquon Barkley is the perfect prospect? Do you think they'll actually trade back? And I think that is going to come down to, do the Bills love Josh Allen more than the Giants love Saquon Barkley? And as of right now, I think the answer is yes, the Bills are willing to make that move to get him.
Yeah, the Bills and Josh Allen make just so much sense. I also have the Bills trading up. I imagine they're have to give up 12, 21, I believe it is, and then probably like a third, and then to move all the way up to 2 from 12. And yeah, I think you're going to take Allen, and I agree that I think that is a franchise-altering mistake. I really do. I don't think he's good. I don't understand what no, I take that back. I do understand what evaluators see in him. I just don't agree. I just as much as I value arm strength and yeah, I mean he ran the fastest 40 at the time for a quarterback at the combine for a quarterback, and I believe, and he has all the intangibles in the world, but he just never wins. He doesn't win at no matter what level he has played at, whether it's been high school, community college, or at Wyoming. He's never really found true success, and that really bothers me. I can't. I think this will be a major screw up if the Bills trade up, but that's what I'm projecting. That's what I think happens.
Yeah.
So moving on to number 3, Ryan, who do you have in this selection?
Well, the New York Jets swap picks with the Colts. So in this spot, I have the Jets taking another quarterback, Josh Rosen from UCLA.
I have the same thing. I think Rosen to the Jets makes a lot of sense. So why do you think? I think the Jets are finding their quarterback of the future, and what do you think they see in Rosen?
I think they see someone that really, you hear a lot about Josh Rosen being in love with himself, but I think the idea is he's in love with himself being good at football. He worries about that. That's what he wants to do, and I think the Jets see that in him. They're less worried about I'm Josh Allen, I have a hot tub, or not Josh Allen, excuse me, Josh Rosen, I have a hot tub in my dorm. I think they say, I'm Josh Rosen, I want to be a winning quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah. I've never really got what was so bad about the hot tub in his dorm room. I love that.
I don't know, it sounds pretty great.
It sounds like a baller move.
It rubs people the wrong way, because it's like, also, how do you get a hot tub in a dorm room?
I know, that's
ours
pretty
were
impressive.
Pretty small.
I don't
living in there,
I don't know how he does that.
I think it rubs people the wrong way because how much money did you have to pay for that hot tub?
That is a good point. Okay, that's
I think how'd they get UCLA to approve a hot tub in a dorm room?
They didn't.
They have them at the facility.
There's no way he told it. Yeah, he definitely
He just
I don't think it was as intricate a hot tub as we're imagining. I think it was a pretty rudimentary little, operation. Okay. But it's still a baller move to me. To be a freshman, you're the starting quarterback at UCLA. You're a freshman. And you're like, you know what? I'm gonna put a hot tub in my dorm room. I just think I don't know. From that moment on, the fact that he's Jewish, I've fallen in love with Rosen. But as a quarterback prospect, I also think he's super talented. I think he has the best accuracy in this class. I think he can make the short and intermediate throws. He's the most talented at making those throws. I think he's going to be the most proficient in that type of offense, a type of offense that really utilizes short and intermediate throws and really allows the quarterback to make quick reads. I think that's where he's going to be best utilized. But I think he's gonna be talented. I think he's really good. I think he has a demeanor too. We talked about that. I think this whole sort of discussion about his personality and who he is as a person. I don't know. It's a strange argument. It feels like an argument that's gonna age really poorly.
Mm-hmm,
I feel like in 5 years we're gonna look back on all these weird articles written about Josh Rosen's makeup as a person. We'll be like, what were we talking about? What is this? Like,
I think Josh Rosen, if he doesn't thrive on the field as much as we want him to, I think he'll at least thrive as a New Yorker.
Oh my God, he's such a perfect New Yorker. He is that's so great about this pick. He will fit in the Big Apple seamlessly, I think. So moving on to number 4, the Cleveland Browns with their second first-round selection. So who do you have them taking?
I have the Browns taking Saquon Barkley.
And a disagreement has emerged. So tell me, so why are the Browns taking Saquon?
I just think he's too good to pass up. I know you like to argue, and it's a good argument. Running backs are just super expendable, but you come across a generational talent like Saquon Barkley. You look at Zeke Elliott; he went number 4, and he's so much of an asset to the Cowboys. And then you like to say, Jordan Howard, 5th-round pick, things like that, but when I see a guy in college as talented as Saquon Barkley or like Ezekiel Elliott was, I think it's kind of dumb to pass on them. You need to at least take that chance because they're so good and they can do so much for your team, even if they are playing a somewhat expendable position. You can't beat 5 yards a carry, and I think that's something the Browns really need. So
No, I agree. I really agree. I mean, Saquon might be the best player, period, in this draft. He's a freak athlete. He is a incredible makeup just as a person. He seems like just a super well-rounded individual, and then on the field, he's just he's a monster. He can do everything well. He runs well between the tackles, outside the tackles. He's a threat in the pass game. He's everything you want. But yeah, I don't know. As much as I love him, as much as I love just running backs in general, it's too there. You can find too much value later in the draft, especially in this draft. I think we'll get into this a little later, but running back is a position I kind of have targeted as like there is some real value in the later rounds, and Barkley is going to be phenomenal in this year's throughout his career in the NFL. But I don't think this is the smartest pick for Cleveland at 4. If I was Cleveland's GM, what I have in my mock is I have them taking Bradley Chubb. I think they're, like I said, with their first pick, they are far from finished. The process is far from completed there. So I think just acquiring as much talent as possible, and Bradley Chubb's the best pass rusher in this draft. Him next to Myles Garrett would just be unstoppable.
that would be scary. The talent thing, it's pretty much where I'm at too. It's just I'm on the other side of the ball.
Yeah, no, I get it. I certainly won't, commend. I don't think Barkley's a bad pick at all. I think, if anytime you have the possibility of getting a generational prospect at the running back position, you do it. But I think Chubb is almost at that level as a pass rusher. I don't think he's a generational prospect. I think he's a very good prospect. And I think, like I said, him next to Garrett, that's your foundation of your defense for the next, 10 years. So that's going to be huge. So I think they should take that opportunity.
All right, number 5, Denver Broncos. Let's let you go first this time.
With the Broncos, I think the Broncos have a fascinating decision. I think this is kind of not where the draft starts, but the Broncos could go in so many different options, and that would just send that would have major implications for what happens. But I have them taking Oklahoma quarterback Baker Mayfield. I really like him. I think he's not my favorite quarterback prospect in this draft. I have him ranked as the 4th best behind Darnold, Rosen, and Lamar Jackson. But I think he has enough intangibles. He has enough just pure skill. His arm strength is out of this world. He can make every throw. He's a little shorter. He's only like 6 foot, 6'1", but I still think he can be an above average starting quarterback in the NFL. Who do you have them taking?
I also have them taking Baker Mayfield. I honestly see this as a potential trade for the Bills too. If they miss out on the second pick, I think this is a really good opportunity for the Broncos to pile up a couple picks, and then they draft someone they could use just later in the first round. The Bills can get their quarterback because the Broncos did sign Case Keenum, who's coming off a career year, so. We don't know if they really want a quarterback, but in this case, I see passing on Mayfield. I don't think that's a great decision for them. I think he's a great fit for Denver and whatever John Elway has planned for that team in the future.
So my biggest worry with Mayfield is that so many of his stats I think might have been inflated by weak Big 12 defenses. What are your thoughts? What are your biggest worries when it comes to Mayfield?
I think that's probably mine as well, but I have to say I watched him in the Rose Bowl. You're right, he did struggle a little bit, but at the same time...
Against Georgia, to clarify, yeah.
Yeah, he was composed the whole time, He was never out of the game, in his head. He knew what he had to go out there and do, and he did it, and it was just, a two-sided game that Georgia ended up winning. And I think Baker Mayfield really proved himself in that game, going against a tougher defense. They still put up, 45. So
yeah, you're right.
That's a good game in my eyes.
Yeah, I think that's a great metric by which to measure him. I think
it definitely helped his draft stock more than it hurt it. That game against Georgia did.
Yeah, I can get with that. I mean, I think he encapsulated everything people already kind of thought he was. He's a gamer. He's a what are all those the football now. He's a game. He's gonna go to war for your team. Like he's I think that kind of encapsulated what Baker's all about. Because what he lacks in sort of traditional NFL quarterback traits, he makes up in terms of these. What makes him a great teammate and probably a really good person.
And I personally think he's the hardest working player in this draft class, at least up in the first round. walk on at Texas Tech, then he walked on again at Oklahoma. Then his coach is fired.
Yeah.
He's able to come back and take his team to the college football playoff under a first-year coach. That takes some skill.
Yeah, you can't just overlook. At some point, if we're gonna dock Josh Allen for never winning, we have to reward Baker for really succeeding despite all the odds. You
Yes.
know, so yeah, that's honestly that might be the most compelling argument for Baker is that he's just a winner. He's just a gamer. He's a winner, and he's gonna put your team in the best position to win every time. So moving on to number 6, the Indianapolis Colts traded down and with the New York Jets, and now have the number 6 selection. So who do you have them taking, Ryan?
This is where I have Bradley Chubb going in the draft. This is, in my eyes, one of the best player available scenarios where you just want to go out there and get that guy off the board because he's going to help your team no matter what. And I definitely think the Colts could use some help on defense. I think any team really could, and any team could use Chubb, and the Colts are lucky enough that they're able to get him right here at number 6.
Another disagreement. We actually flipped our picks. I have the Colts taking Saquon here. I think Saquon stops his slide at 6, and I think he fits in really well with what Indianapolis is trying to build. As much help as their defense needs, adding a player like Barkley to whatever their quarterback situation is going to be. If it's Brissett to start the year, hopefully it's Luck. But a pairing of Luck and Barkley would just be scary. Like the amount of damage Luck could do with an okay receiving core and a great backfield because it's Barkley, that just elevates him to a whole different level. I think.
Are you saying Frank Gore was not the answer?
As incredible as Frank Gore, as the ageless wonder Frank Gore was last year. I don't think he was the steadying presence in the run game that I think Saquon Barkley could provide. Basically from day one, I think. From day one, he's going to be an impact player. Like I said, he's going to be phenomenal in the run game. He's going to be great in the pass game. I think he's a true three-down running back. He's going to fit immediately in the NFL. He's going to have a long career here. I think him with Andrew Luck, him in Indianapolis makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, that does make sense to me too. All right, number 7, Tampa Bay. Who you got?
I got them taking Alabama safety Minkah Fitzpatrick. I think Minkah is the type of player who can, just change the defense basically from the second he steps on campus or on the grounds. I think he's gonna be a phenomenal player. He's a true, true deep safety. He's gonna be able to kind of patrol the field. He's gonna fill in where others can't. Fill in where other mistakes, where there's I think Tampa Bay defense has a lot of great individual players like Levante David and last year's first-round pick Vernon Hargraves, but they need to have that one kind of unifying force that brings everything together, and I think that can be Minkah.
I agree with that. I don't really have much else to add on that, for being honest. I think you really hit everything. I also have them taking Minkah Fitzpatrick at number 7.
Just to bring it back, I think his impact in the run game is going to be huge too. I think he can truly play all over the field. I think that's what's going to be really special about him. I think he could have the same kind of impact somebody like Earl Thomas does on Seattle's defense, where they have so many great individual players, but as we saw last year without Thomas, that defense kind of falters without it, So he can cover for everybody's mistakes. He is, I'm really excited to see what he can do on this defense. So the number 8 selection, the Chicago Bears. Who do you have them taking, Ryan?
I have them taking guard Quentin Nelson, first offensive lineman to go in this draft.
So what do you like? Tell me why a guard is worthy of the number 8 overall selection.
Well, for one, the Bears just lost their Pro Bowl guard, Josh Sitton. And I think in a league where quarterbacks are getting hit more and more, that's the goal. I think you also want to protect those guys. I just gave a super generic answer. But, an offensive lineman in a lot of ways, or the offensive line as a whole, is super important to a team. And I really like Quentin Nelson. I think he's super quick, really good blocker. So I don't see how he could hurt the Bears in this case. And I know it's a little high in your eyes, but when you need a guy, or especially when you need to replace a Pro Bowler, I think he's going to be a pretty reliable offensive lineman to have.
I agree. I actually also have the Bears taking Quentin Nelson. I think I really had to evaluate, is a guard worth the top 10 selection? As much as important as the offensive line is, is there not someone on the defensive end or on the defensive side of the ball that could really impact the game more? And when you have a prospect, I think of Nelson's caliber, it's a no-brainer. I think this you as much as somebody like Derwin James could help their team or Denzel Ward, getting a steadying force on the interior of their offensive line is such a huge team building. It's such a huge team building advantage. I think for the next 10 years. He's going to be. I think he's going to be fantastic from day one. He's just going to be able to translate everything that led to success at Notre Dame and just instantly bring that to Chicago. And he's just going to be fantastic.
I think he's going to be better than Eric Fisher. Eric Fisher, of course, being the number 1 overall pick.
That right there is a hot take.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have to wait and see.
But him next to Kyle Long for the next 10 years, 15 years in Chicago will just be that is. There is no better protection plan for Mitchell Trubisky or whoever they have bring in at quarterback. But if they're committed to everything they've done this offseason, sort of indicates that they're trying to build the perfect ecosystem around Trubisky. Whether it's signing Allen Robinson or they should have matched with Cam Meredith. But I think that's been kind of a focal point. And the selection of Quentin Nelson would really help solidify that.
All right, number 9, San Francisco 49ers. Who you got?
I have them taking cornerback Denzel Ward out of Ohio State.
As do I.
Yeah, so tell me, what do you like about Denzel Ward?
Well, I think he's the best corner in the draft. And 25th ranked defense for the Niners last year, not that great. They have a quarterback. It's obviously proven he can go. He took that mediocre at best team, won 6 straight at the end of the season. So I think it's time for San Francisco to focus less on moving the ball down the field and rather preventing the other team from doing that. A note, one of their young linebackers, Reuben Foster, just arrested for domestic violence, and they plan to meet with him this week. Foster's had some disciplinary issues in the past. So depending on what they decide to do about this situation, I could see them taking a linebacker instead. But right now, I still really like Ward at this.
Me too. Once again, me and Sharp do have similar picks. I also have them taking Denzel Ward, and I really wouldn't even reconsider it if they decide to draw Foster or however they decide to handle with the Foster. I just think Ward is a fantastic prospect. He led all cornerbacks in 40 time. I think he ran like a 4.32. He had a 39 or 40 inch vertical jump. He is a freak athlete. He only lists about 5'10", 5'11", but like I said, he has these intangibles that will more than make up for it. He can stick with any receiver in the league. He has quick feet. His hips are incredibly fluid. I think he's going to be fantastic. He may. I think his scheme is a little more up in the air. I think he can fit in at either a man or zone scheme. I think he can thrive in both. I think he can be as an undersized corner. I think he'd fit in a little bit better in a more off coverage sort of where he's able to kind of use his athleticism, go for balls. But he's just going to be. I think whatever scheme you put him in. He's a plug-and-play prospect from day one, and I think he should kind of legitimize that San Francisco defense. So moving on to number 10, our final little wrap-up this section. Who do you have the Oakland Raiders taking?
I have them taking Roquan Smith.
So tell me why.
Well, it's a little selfish, if we're being honest. I really just loved that idea of Khalil Mack and Roquan playing on the same defense. But you look at a guy like Roquan Smith, and his ability to get into the backfield is unlike any other that I've seen in a while, except for maybe Bradley Chubb.
Yeah.
And he's off the board already, so I think Roquan is a very good player and a good fit with that, gritty, tough Oakland defense. I think John Gruden can turn Roquan Smith into something pretty special.
Yeah, I think he certainly has the natural talents to be a linebacker, an all-pro-ish linebacker for the next, for a good amount of time. I also have the Raiders taking Roquan Smith. I have some worries about him. I think he does a couple things really, really well. He's a super athlete. He can control sideline to sideline. He's gonna track down those ball carriers. He is a great at that. He is fantastic at controlling the run game and controlling the middle of the field. But he needs to work at releasing off blocks. He's still really weak. He's still kind of underdeveloped in terms of dealing with big offensive linemen. And I think that that plagues a lot of linebackers. But his ability to function in this league could really be determined by how he progresses as sort of an athlete and sort of as a technical linebacker. If he's able to kind of, yes, he has all these incredible natural gifts, but he's able to put everything together and kind of learn the intangibles that are needed to be a truly dominant NFL linebacker, yeah, he'll be special. but I think he'll always have a place just because of the few things he can do really well from day one. He will, that'll translate immediately.
That's definitely good enough to carry him to a good NFL career.
Exactly. But if he wants to be something special, he's really going to have to develop other areas of his game. So that's our top 10. You can peep the rest of my full first on Sideline Intel and the rest of Ryan's on Sideline Intel.
And you can just go down to the comment section below, and that's where you'll find those links.
Producer Josh has already linked up in the description. So for your easiest convenience. So I think now we're going to move on to later prospects, maybe some later in the first, so maybe sleeper prospects that really just have excited us in this draft prospect sort of season.
Yep. Oh, well, one of my favorite sleepers is another guy that took the junior college route, and that's Michael Gallup from Colorado State. His SAT scores weren't that great, so he didn't get into a Division I school right away, so he took the junior college route, and then unfortunately he got injured in his second year at JC, so that cost him a lot of Power 5 offers, and he ended up going to Colorado State. I think that might have hurt him a little bit when it comes to the draft, but I also think that people need to see that he's a first-round wide receiver. I would say so. He's really good at turning his head and finding the ball. Definitely a 10-plus yard kind of guy. That's where I'd put him at least.
Give me an NFL comparison. Who do you project him as?
I see him like Nelson Aguilar with better hands.
Wow. Okay, I like it. That's a good comp. I'm with it.
He's just not that great after contact. That's, from what I've seen, my biggest worry. But I think if you can get him open enough, then that'll be less of a concern, and you'll just have to worry about getting the ball in his hands.
A prospect I've really fallen in love with in the process has been Michigan defensive tackle Maurice Hurst. I really, really just enjoy what he just blows up on tape to me. He stands out. Whenever I'm looking at this Michigan defense, he's the first person I look for, and he always just seems to be making some sort of impact play. I think a reason he's kind of being taken for granted, kind of falling down some draft boards, is he didn't actually work out at the combine. Combine doctors found some sort of heart malfunction and were initially really worried about his NFL future. But he was able to confirm with other doctors. He was able to get a second opinion, and all seems to be good on that end. He wasn't invited back for a second testing at the combine, which kind of indicates that there was something weird going on in the first, and he should be all ready to play. And with that information in mind, he is criminally underrated in this draft. He was a force at Michigan. He consistently made an impact in the middle of the defensive line, whether it's in the run game, in the pass game. It didn't really matter. He was just blowing up offensive linemen. They had no way to stop him. His swim move is elite. That's kind of his favorite move to go to. And he just is able to get constant penetration. He's 6'2", 289, so he's a little undersized for the typical defensive tackle position, but that really works to his advantage. He's able to really get low, get under the blockers, and he just doesn't matter. Single coverage, double team, it doesn't matter. He is a force, which leads me to my comparison for him, and it's a little crazy. He is certainly a poor man's version of this, but he really reminds me of Aaron Donald. He's a little undersized at the defensive tackle position, like I said, but he makes such an impact that I could see him not having the exact career of Aaron Donald. Obviously, he's not. I don't think he's going to be that incredible, but I think he could. I think he could have similar impacts. And if we remember, Aaron Donald went 12 to the Rams a couple years ago, so a middle of the first projection, late first for Hurst does not seem crazy. So let's move on to your second prospect. Who else has caught your eye?
Someone else I really like is tight end Mike Gesicki out of Penn State. He had an incredible combine, 4.54 in the 40, 41.5-inch vertical. I think to get those numbers from a tight end is pretty impressive. He's really good at also like Gallup, going to get the ball and finding the ball. Last year he had 57 catches, 563 yards. And I just think a lot of the attention went to his teammate Saquon Barkley. So he flew under the radar for a lot of the season, and he really used the combine in a great way to, let people see who he was. I think that might propel him into the first round. If we're being honest, I could see the Patriots maybe taking a shot at him with one of their picks in the 20s, especially, their all-pro tight end is considering retirement. But I think even if Gronkowski decides to stay, Gesicki's a good asset to have. He's definitely more of a pass catcher than a blocker. That's my biggest concern with him. He's a little weak on the blocking abilities, but he's fast and he can go get the ball like a receiver can. And I think he'd be a good fit with that Belichick system there.
I like it. I like that. I like him a lot. I think he could really shoot up in this kind of weak tight end class. There's not a really. I think your description of great pass catchers, but rough on the blocking end describes a couple guys in this class. Whether it's Gesicki, whether it's South Dakota State tight end Dallas Goedert, or Oklahoma tight end Mark Andrews. There's a lot of these bigger athletes who have great hands but aren't really adept in the run game and in the passing and the blocking schemes. So I think Gesicki in the first round. I like it.
I think Jimmy Graham is a good NFL comp.
I'm with it. That's I think he could have that kind of success from day one. I think he might be a little better athlete though than Jimmy Graham. What do you think?
I think so too. I think in terms of athleticism, purely he's better. But tight end's also a hard position to, at least for me, to judge at first, just because they do so much. You need to watch them all over the field. But I definitely think he can reach that Jimmy Graham level, at least as a pass-catching tight end.
I like it. So my second prospect is on the defensive side of the ball. It is Louisville corner Jair Alexander. He's projected late first, early second, but I think really just teams are going to fall in love with his skill set. Similar to how we talked about earlier, how Roquan Smith has a very individual, he has a couple things he does really well. Similar with Jair Alexander. He is not the most well-rounded cornerback prospect of this class, but he fits perfectly in today's pass-happy sort of, how defenses need to react to the evolution of the offensive game offensive game, in that you just need as many corners as possible. I think you need to put as many great athletes out on the field to try and shut down the pass. I think that's the quickest way, and I think a player like Alexander really helps with that. He's a 5'11", 192, and I think he's going to immediately project as a shutdown slot cover corner. I think he is a twitchy athlete. That is the best word I've been able to find to describe him. He is just the way he moves off of breaks and the way he's able to stick with cuts. It's really, really impressive. He's just so quick. His feet and hips are so quick and fluid, and there's no receiver seems like he can get away from him. He was fantastic at Louisville. People remember his sophomore season, so not the past one, but 2 years ago. He picked off then Clemson quarterback Deshaun Watson twice in a game. He's going to be really fun. Like I said, I think he immediately projects as a smaller kind of cover slot corner who's going to shut down some of the quicker, faster, shiftier receivers in the league basically from day one. I'm trying to think of a great comparison. Maybe like peak Tim Jennings. Mm-hmm. People remember him on Chicago. He was only 5'8", but that type of player who can, who is short enough and is quick enough to stay with the league's, fiercest threats. I think that provides such immediate value that I think Jair Alexander is going to be a steal for whoever takes him. And that is the conclusion of the first ever episode of Two Kids in a Trenchcoat. I think that went really well.
I think so.
I'm really proud of that. I think our picks are going to age well too. I like them all. So signing off, I've been one of your hosts, Jacob Rosenfarm.
I'm Ryan Sharp, and
I'm Josh Sachs, the producer.
Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week.